From the science lab to ministry field, Rev Greg Hughson's ministry has been him spend more time on the grounds of university campuses than church property. This is exactly how he wanted it, after himself being impacted on chaplaincy as a university student. Greg's interfaith work within Dunedin is highly regarded, as well as his pastoral care for generation of Otago University students, a real-life embodiment of Wesley's words, that being, "Word is my parish."
And Greg, I just have a few questions for you in reflection of your ministry journey that you've had. Starting with, if you could just tell us about yourself and what brought you into the church and ultimately into ordained ministry.
Sure. Kia ora, Michael, and kia ora, everyone. It was through birth in 1957 and baptism that same year that I came into the life of the church. And I was confirmed in 1974 by Reverend Len Willing in Hawera. And it was at this time that Len Willing suggested to me that if in the future I heard the call from God to ordained ministry, I should carefully consider this call and not ignore it. I then went off to Massey University with the intention of becoming a vet, but I ended up with a science degree in biochemistry and physiology and a position at Ruakura Research Centre in Hamilton. But during my 3 years at Massey University, I played the piano for an on-campus Sunday morning worship music group led by the Reverend John Brooke, who was university chaplain at the time. After 7 years working at Ruakura, I was married, I had 2 children, and I'd completed a Master of Science in Biology. And Hilda and I had led the St. Francis Youth Group in Hamilton for 7 years. We moved to Auckland, where I trained for 3 years at Trinity College. The suggestion that I allow my name to go forward for ordained ministry selection came from Reverend Jill Telford, enhanced by my memory of Len Willing's suggestion 10 years earlier. I want to acknowledge that without the support and constant love of Hilda, I could never have and would never have responded to the call to serve God as an ordained minister. And I would also like to honour and pay tribute to our 4 children, Joanna, Paul, Blair, and Christina, and their partners for their love and understanding and forgiveness. And I give thanks to God each day for my family, including 5 and soon to be 6 grandchildren. I was ordained in the Michael Fowler Centre in Wellington on November the 5th, 1989, which is 32 years ago tomorrow. And I was given this cross I'm still wearing by my fielding congregation as an ordination present. Although I enjoyed scientific research, I felt that overall my life would be better spent in service to people rather than sheep. And I decided to use Methodist ordination as a base. I saw moving into theological, pastoral, and biblical studies as expanding my scientific understandings of life in all its fullness. And it was significant that after 12 years of parish ministry, that is 6 years in Fielding and 6 years in Gisborne, it was my scientific qualifications and experience that were key factors which led to my becoming ecumenical chaplain to Otago University in February 2000. And I have continued to draw on my scientific understandings throughout my ministry career.
You spent more time in the ministry as a chaplain than in parish ministry. What was it that drew you towards chaplaincy, and what was it that kept you there? A big part as well, linking into your chaplaincy in Dunedin, has been your work with the Abrahamic Interfaith and Dunedin Interfaith Council. How has this work also shaped your ministry, particularly your time down in Dunedin?
Sure. Well, a big part of my motivation to become a university chaplain was due to my university chaplain when I was a student, John Brooke. And he had a very significant influence on my spiritual life. But when I was about to graduate from the Methodist Theological College, I was on the lookout for university chaplaincy positions, but there were none. I was advised by Reverend Jack Penman to get some parish ministry experience first, which was very wise advice. So my 12 years of parish ministry gave me the experience of leading around 700 church services of worship, 200 funerals, and 40 weddings. So this was all good experience to prepare me well for university chaplaincy, especially the grief work. So when the right position came up at the right time, I applied and was appointed initially for 3 years, but I stayed in the role for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Throughout these 20 years, I continued to find great challenge, but also great satisfaction through serving the students and staff at the university. Going back to 2001, after the tragic events of 9/11, I helped set up the Dunedin Abrahamic Interfaith Group, and as a university chaplain, I was well positioned to host those initial meetings, which led to the formation of that group, which still continues to meet monthly. And in 2013, I helped establish the Dunedin Interfaith Council, which includes people from 12 religions. And I'm still in my retirement an active member of both groups. To be an interfaith pioneer was not something I ever planned for or expected. Our Abrahamic group came into being initially to provide crisis pastoral support to the Dunedin Muslim community, but it soon morphed into an educational body focused especially on increasing our understanding of each other's faiths and on interfaith peace education together. My pioneering interfaith work was a response to what I believe God was calling me to dive into, not knowing where it would lead. In fact, it has led to many profoundly helpful new insights and many significant deep friendships with people of other faiths. In early 2019, I participated in the official launch of Muslim chaplaincy at Otago University, which grew out of the Abrahamic Interfaith Group. And at my university farewell, my pastoral ministry and my interfaith ministries were acknowledged to be valued by the campus and wider communities. Often, as after 9/11 and after the March 15th, 2019 attacks in Christchurch, these two ministries of pastoral and interfaith would overlap. For example, following the terror attacks in Christchurch, my interfaith contacts were helpful in assisting the Dunedin City Council organise, and I also helped lead a vigil at Forsyth Bar Stadium attended by 18,000 people. So I would like to sincerely thank the Methodist Church of New Zealand, Te Hāhi Witiriana or Aotearoa, for being the vehicle in providing the structure for God to call me to ordained ministry and for all the opportunities I have had to serve.
Well, bringing things together, thank you so much again for both of your time this morning. After all your years of experience, insight, what are, in your view, the most important issues that Te Hāhi Witiriana or Aotearoa should be engaged in?
Well, number one is Christian faith nurture and sustenance in people of all ages, but especially young people, children and youth, and that needs to be a priority. I did my Bachelor of Divinity dissertation on faith development, and that study has assisted me throughout my ordained ministry, and we need to understand faith development and faith nurture and to put it into practice through our church. Secondly, more Methodist Church commitment to helping provide and fund ecumenical chaplaincy ministries in every area of secular society, our prisons, our schools, our hospitals, our universities, our polytechs, everywhere, crying out for more chaplains. And it's great the University of Otago now has a chaplaincy training program in place in the theology department. An increased commitment to understanding mental health and supporting people who go through mental health difficulties, holistic healing of individuals and communities, and of course the whole of creation with COP26 meeting as we speak. Eco-theology needs to be a topic on everyone's mind and caring for our beautiful world, God's world. Finally, much more interfaith education and dialogue. I believe, and I've suggested this a few times over the years, but I'll suggest it again, that our Methodist Mission and Ecumenical Board should rebrand as ecumenical and interfaith, as interfaith relationships and understandings are now more important than ecumenical ones in our increasingly pluralistic New Zealand society. And I'd like just to finish with two passages from Scripture which have guided and will continue to guide my ministry. First, from Micah 6, verse 8. God has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And from John 13, verse 34 and 35. A new commandment I give to you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you have love, if you have aroha for one another.